Knowing the pathophysiology of COVID-19 can help in having the more treatment modules. In this video, I'm going to continue the pathophysiology of COVID-19. Hey everyone, welcome back to HM Learnings. I'm Harshita, the creator of HM Learnings, where students come to clear their concept and to get the study material. Make sure that you have subscribed my channel. You can also follow HM Learnings on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for daily updates. We have also started uploading all our content on website known as SlideShare, so you can easily download and clip our slides from that website. I will also share the link of this video slides in the description box, so you just need to click on the link and you will be on the SlideShare. So we will continue the pathophysiology of the COVID-19. The part 1 was already done, and in this video we are continuing the remaining portions we have left. So this is a summary which we have done in the part 1, and in the part 1 we have seen that the virus has entered inside the cell causing the injury, leading to the inflammatory response which is called as a cytokine storm, and this is lead to damage to the alveolar wall, damage to the vascular integrity, and basically it leads to the alveolar collapse, alveolar damage and the pulmonary edema. Now the pulmonary edema clinically has been characterized by the hypoxemia. So and then after as the hypoxemia progresses, we are saying that the patient is having the acute respiratory distress syndrome. So now in this video what we need to focus is that how the pulmonary edema, or how basically there is hypoxia in the COVID-19. So hypoxia is the center of the COVID-19 pathology, so it is very important to understand that how it is happening and how you can say the different lines they are going to cause the hypoxia, and then it is further progressing into the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, so before that, the one point which is very important to clear is that many times if someone asks you that COVID-19 is going to affect what, you will say that it is going to affect the respiratory system, it is going to affect the lungs. Yes, totally it is going to affect the lungs, but only lungs is not the correct answer. COVID-19 is an inflammatory disorder. It is affecting the endothelial cell, it is affecting the vascular system. So it is an injury which is happening to the endothelial cells, and in response to injury what will happen, there will always be the inflammation. So the injured cell is going to release some inflammatory markers which will be released inside the circulation. And as we know that the blood will go to each and every part of the body, so each and every part of the body will come to know that there is a injury inside the body at that level. Okay, so in response to that what will happen, that organ will also start releasing certain factors. They're also called as an inflammatory markers, or basically the pro-inflammatory cytokines. So this is which is also done in the COVID-19. Not only the lungs get affected, but vascular system is affected, and through the vascular system you can say the cardiovascular system is affected, the renal system is affected, the gastrointestinal system is affected. But we are not going to do the details of that. We are going to do the details of only the respiratory system. So because there is endothelial injury, there is an imbalance between the procoagulant activity and the anticoagulant activity, and because of that there is formation of the intravascular microthrombi, pulmonary embolism and the deep vein thrombosis. So these things occur in the severe COVID-19. Okay, there is vascular injury. That doesn't mean that the vascular injury is not there when the person has a mild or moderate COVID-19. Yes, there is still there, but the severity is more when we say that the patient is at the critical condition because of the intravascular microthrombi, pulmonary embolism and the deep vein thrombosis. So because there is release of the tissue factor from the injured endothelial cell, there is activation of the coagulation factor 7th and 9th. There could be a diffuse disseminated intravascular coagulation leading to the multi-organ dysfunction syndrome and ultimately the death of the person. So it is very important to understand that how the death is happening in the COVID-19, not only by causing the respiratory failure, but also by, you can say, the widespread systemic inflammation is also the reason in many of the cases. Okay. Now, what is this acute respiratory distress syndrome? Just few lines about it, because it is very repeatedly used in all over the pathology of COVID-19. Wherever you're going to read about this COVID-19 pathophysiology, you will find this term. Okay, so it is defined as an acute disorder that starts within the 7 days of inciting event, and it is characterized by the bilateral lung infiltrates and severe progressive hypoxemia without any evidence of cardiogenic pulmonary edema. So basically the cardiogenic pulmonary edema has been ruled out. Apart from that, the other reasons, the other disorders or the other diseases which could cause the bilateral lung infiltrates and the progressive hypoxemia within the 7 days of its onset is having the acute respiratory distress syndrome. Okay, so what do you mean by the lung infiltrates? In the previous video also I have told you, I am repeating here it too, that infiltrates means what? That you have an injury, in response to that there is inflammation, and inflammation is what? The release of the inflammatory cytokines, that these inflammatory cytokines will cause the chemotaxis of the immune cells, and the immune cells like the natural killer cells, macrophages, T cells, by the help of the diapedicus, they will reach at the site of the injury and by escaping the circulatory pool. And because of that, there is appearance of the infiltrates, also called as a ground glass opacities in the CT scan and the chest X-ray. So the lung injury is being shown because there is inflammation. Okay, in the chest X-ray and the CT scan, you can see that there is inflammation, and inflammation occurs because of what? Because there is a certain kind of injury. So in response to that, the inflammation is happened. And the clinical features which are here is there the fever, cough, hypoxemia and the dyspnea. Sometimes dyspnea doesn't happen, and that condition is called as a happy hypoxia. So we are going to do a separate video on the happy hypoxemia. And the pathophysiology already we have discussed. There is damage to the alveoli, there is surfactant dysfunction because of the loss of the type 2 immunocytes, there is activation of the immune system, because you can say that in response to injury what will happen? Ultimately there will be activation of the immune system, and as well as a dysregulation of the blood coagulation. Okay, so that is also we have seen. So this is a CT scan of COVID-19 showing the glass ground opacities, basically the bilateral lung infiltrates suggestive of COVID-19. Okay. Now hypoxia, as I said, that this is the main thing we need to understand. So it is a leading symptom which can worsen or progress to the various stages of acute respiratory distress syndrome. So how it happens and how it progresses, it's very important if you are talking about the COVID-19, particularly when you're talking about the respiratory failure. Okay, so this is just a very beautiful diagram showing you how the hypoxia progresses. Not only the progression but also how it happens. Okay, so this is a figure taken from the Lancet, and it is showing the beautifully about the progression of hypoxia. So you can see here that as the hypoxia, you can say that the hypoxia progresses. Okay. As well as what is happening simultaneously, that the pulmonary compliance is reduced. Here in the early stage what is happening, the compliance is high, the hypoxia is not that much. As the disease progresses, the hypoxia is increased and the compliance is reduced. Why it is happening? What do you mean by disease progression? Disease progression means that the virus is affecting these cells. Okay, the virus is replicating inside the cell, they are you can say released outside the cell and infecting the other cells. So there is a disease progression. So here the number of the damaged alveoli are less, the disease progresses, so the number of the damaged cells will also get increased. So ultimately what will happen, the symptom, the versatility of the symptom will also get increased. So here the symptom is what? The symptom is the hypoxia. So hypoxia gets worsened. Okay, so now what happens, how the hypoxia worsens? Okay, so basically in response to the hypoxia, there are certain compensatory mechanisms which are there in our body. Like in the lung, in response to hypoxia, there is vasoconstriction. Okay, so that vasoconstriction is done so that the blood can be diverted from the non-perfused alveoli to the well-perfused alveoli, so that the blood can be get oxygenated. Okay, and there is no shunt. So that compensatory mechanism has been lost, and also the tachypnea which occurs in response to hypoxia is lost. And other reasons you can say why the disease progresses. So the first reason is the compensatory responses has been lost. The second reason is the viral damage to the type 2 immunocytes, and because of that what will happen, there will be loss of the surfactant, and in absence of surfactant there will be alveolar collapse. So this will lead to a condition called as the intrapulmonary shunting or right to left shunting. So what is the meaning of that? So this is a diagram which is showing you that what is the intrapulmonary shunting. So above you can see there is a case in which there is everything is normal, there is no shunting. There is a venous blood which has came and it is surrounding the alveoli, gets oxygenated and return back. Because there is uniform ventilation and uniform blood flow, there is no shunting. But here what is happening, because there is no ventilation to one of the alveoli, and the other alveoli is well perfused, what is happening, the blood which is coming, the venous blood which is coming and surrounding the alveoli, which is not having the ventilation, it contributes to the shunt. Okay, why? Because the venous blood is not oxygenated, and now this venous blood from the right side, it is going to the left side, resulting in the shunting, resulting in the increase in the deoxygenated level in the blood. So this is called as a right to left shunting, which occurs whenever there is a alveolar collapse. Okay, the another thing which happens is that there is damage to the alveolar wall. Okay, and because of that there is thickening of the alveolar wall and there is increased diffusion barrier. And as we do that, the diffusion is inversely proportional to the thickness of the diffusion barrier. So more the thickness of the diffusion barrier, what will happen? The diffusion rate will be get decreased. Okay, as well as it contributes to the intrapulmonary shunting also, because there is decrease in diffusion. So what will happen? Ultimately the level of the deoxyhemoglobin will be increased into that site. Okay, after that the pulmonary edema which also has occurred, it will also increase the diffusion barrier and resulting in the intrapulmonary shunting. Okay, and the next thing is that the hypercoagulable state result in the microthrombi formation in the blood vessels. It will lead to a condition called as a dead space ventilation. So what is dead space ventilation? You can say here what is happening, because the venous blood is coming to both the sides, but here the venous blood is not coming to this side. Okay, so what is happening? The area which is not being perfused is ventilated. So this is called as a dead space ventilation. Okay, so I hope the intrapulmonary shunting as well as the dead space ventilation you are clear about this, and these are the reasons why the hypoxia is happening. So we will just return back to the previous diagram, which is this. So hypoxia is progressing because there is increased dead space ventilation because of the thrombosis, because of the endothelial inflammation as well as the pleural infusion. Because there is pleural edema, there is increase in the diffusion barrier as well as there is injury to the alveolar wall causing the thickening of the alveolar wall. And there is increase in the right to left shunting. Why? Because the alveoli is not, you can say that there is angiogenesis, there is consolidation or the fibrosis which has happened, and because of that there is intrapulmonary shunting. The diffusion barrier is increased, or you can say the fibrosis has happened. Because of that the exchange of gases is not happening, so the venous blood is not oxygenated properly, and the level of the deoxyhemoglobin will be increased, which is called as the intrapulmonary shunting or the right to left shunting, meaning the right blood is going to the left side without getting oxygenated. It is called as the right to left shunting. Okay, so with this we have done the pathophysiology, and now we are going to see complete flow chart, okay, how the disease progresses and how it ultimately leads to the death of the patient. So it has entered inside the respiratory tract, causing the damage to the alveoli, as well as the endothelial dysfunction has happened, causing the inflammatory response. Okay, so inflammatory response is further causing the dysfunction to the endothelial as well as to the alveoli, and this is further causing the cytokines storm. So these are the things which are occurring in a vicious cycle. Okay, then this is causing what? This is causing the loss of the surfactant, thickening of the alveolar wall, vascular integrity defect is also being happening. So what will happen? There will be alveolar collapse, there is pulmonary edema, resulting in the hypoxemia, and hypoxia will get progressed because these conditions are continued. The infections are continued, more alveoli are being damaged, more alveoli are being collapsed, more there is an extent of the pulmonary edema, more microthrombi formation, resulting in the hypoxemia, which is leading to the acute respiratory distress syndrome, respiratory failure, and finally the death of the individual. The alveolar collapse of the pulmonary edema, it can increase the, what it will increase? It will increase the person's breathing effort, okay, and that would lead to the ventilatory failure or the respiratory failure. The cytochrome storm is also responsible for the hypercoagulable state, resulting in the microthrombi formation, and it is causing the dead space ventilation, resulting again in the hypoxemia. It is also can cause the DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation, resulting in the multi-organ dysfunction syndrome and the death of the individual. The cytochrome storm, the widespread systemic inflammation, will going to cause the widespread vasodilation, which is causing the cardiogenic shock, and because there is widespread viral infection spread, what will happen? The septic shock can also be happened, resulting in the multi-organ dysfunction syndrome and the death of the person. So this is the overall pathophysiology. You can say that it's very tough to remember it at a one side, but once you understand the things, it is very easy. You can even redraw by yourself. Okay, so with this, we are at the end of this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe our channel. Do let me know in the comment section what are your doubts and what you really want to have next on my channel. And please look at the slides we are going to share in the SlideShare website, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter for the daily updates. So keep safe. Until then, keep learning.